Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. Hey there, good morning. So today we have another episode of my weekly podcast where I discuss all things play therapy. So today I want to discuss what are the 4 basic play therapy skills that are critical for you to develop proficiency with when you are learning how to provide play therapy with children, adolescents, and families. And so there are certain things that set play therapy apart from simply pulling out games and toys and using more of a traditional talk therapy kind of adult model with children. Play therapy is actually a fundamental shift in the way in which it's used that make it different than just using a traditional play therapy model. And the 4 skills that I want to talk about today are part of that fundamental shift for providing really good play therapy services. So one of the things that I often hear when I'm talking with people who are interested in play therapy and trying to figure out what it is, and I'm usually talking to them about my Play Therapy Academy, and we're kind of figuring out, well, is this a good fit for you? And in my mind, a lot of times it is, and here's why. Because I hear this story a lot. And in fact, this was me like 30 years ago, same thing. I remember I always wanted to work with children and adolescents, always, since I was little. Long story short, found my way into clinical social work, got my master's degree, graduated, got my first job. And of course, my focus was I want jobs that are going to be focused on working with children, adolescents, and families. And so my first job was working with children, adolescents, and families. And they had a playroom. And I had been introduced to play therapy when I was in special education as a teacher. So I knew what it was. I just didn't know how it worked or what you had to do to learn how to do it. And I knew that it did require some training and a supervisor that could help me take what I learned and apply it in real time. So I get my first job. They have a playroom. I'm so excited, like nobody knows how to use it. I remember asking each of my different supervisor over the years, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, here's what they're doing in the sessions, but I don't know what it means. And well-intentioned, just, do your best. It'll work out. Or, if you don't feel comfortable doing it that way, essentially do worksheets. And that didn't feel good to me either. And in fact, I saw how it didn't work very well. So fast forward probably 10 years before I found somebody who actually knew how to use this play therapy thing. A friend of mine told me about this training. I went, it was Santray training. Life was transformed for me. My friend connected me with a supervisor, and that made all the difference. It was a game changer. And what I find, it's kind of still happening, that well-intentioned people trying to help new therapists who they're supervising or overseeing, who don't know about play therapy, will say, oh, it'll be okay. Just play with them. It'll be fine. And the people that I talk to know that that doesn't really work very well. And you end up feeling like a fraud. I felt like a giant fraud. You feel like a fraud. You know you're not doing the right, there's a better way, but you just don't know how. And to me, learning how to use some of these fundamental skills in play therapy is key. And so today, that's what I want to talk about, these 4 key skills. I'll talk a little bit more about Play Therapy Academy at the end if you're interested in that. One of the reasons I created more of a program around play therapy consultation is to provide a little more structure and support along the learning journey, because I found that was really, really helpful. And to me, learning to use these 4 skills that I'm going to talk about today, it takes training. Like, I'm going to talk about them today for sure. And to really learn how to use them, though, you really need to do some consultation with somebody who's been doing play therapy, a seasoned play therapist who can help you learn how to use them and what does it look like in your actual session. So when your client shows up in your office and you have all this good information, they're looking at you like, okay, I'm ready for my session. And you're like, oh, darn, now what do I do? That pit in your stomach, or, that knot in your throat. You're like, oh, and that slow panic that begins to raise up your body. We have all been there. And to me, that's where the consultation supervision can be a game changer. And I think it's also important, which is one of the reasons I do these weekly live stream webinars, is to kind of help people understand what play therapy is, but also support the play therapy work that people are doing as you're in that learning journey. So Facebook, I have somebody, welcome Facebook user, trust the process, 100%. And when I was I still say it, but when I was learning initially, and I also tell people that people in my consultation program, Play Therapy Academy, trust the process. You will get there. Trust the process. Because it doesn't make much sense in the beginning. Hey, Steph. Awesome. Absolutely, Steph. Trust the process. Which reminds me, hey, if you're watching, I would love to see who's here. So post your name in the comments, post where you're from, what population do you work with, where do you work, those kinds of things. Are you using play therapy? What type of play therapy are you using? Love to see who's joining me. I go live every week on Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Pacific time here in the US. I go live every week and talk about all things play therapy and expressive arts. So I live stream onto my Instagram channel, my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and in my Facebook group, which is where looks like Barbara. Hey, Barbara, welcome. Barbara from Las Vegas. Oh, I'm like right up the road from Vegas. So I always like meeting with people who are nearby. I'm kind of in between Las Vegas and Southern Utah. So I kind of get the best of both in there. So another Facebook user said, I relate a lot as an intern, just getting my RPT, and we've had a play therapy room with no play therapist, right? I know it still happens. So that's good. You're just starting your play therapy journey. That is awesome. Hey, Polly, how are you? Polly was in my recent pop-up. It was always nice to see you. So I do go live every week in my Facebook group. If you are on Facebook and you're interested, I have a Facebook group for child and adolescent therapists using play therapy and expressive arts. It's for child and adolescent therapists. You do have to answer all the questions or you won't get in the group. So make sure you answer all of the questions. So, and the group is called Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground. So if you're on Facebook and you're interested in the Facebook group, Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground, pop on over there and say hello. So, hey, Sarah from South Wales in the UK, play therapist and nurse specialist for children. Interesting. Do you work in like a hospital situation, Sarah? Or are you like inpatient or something like that? Or that's interesting. What a good combination, though. Because I'm a firm believer that because we are working with children as play therapists, we have the opportunity to, because that's one of the competencies that the Association for Play Therapy came up with for play therapists is understanding childhood problems and recognizing childhood stages of development. So I'm a firm believer that we are in a unique position as play therapists to recognize any other like childhood problems or developmental things going on that may need further assessment to, and it may be contributing to their mental health challenges, but also we're in a position to be able to maybe help them get some assessment and intervention earlier than maybe if it gets missed. So I think that's awesome. Hey, Barbara's in my Facebook group. That's awesome. So today I want to talk about what these 4 skills are. And these are 4 skills that are regardless of your play therapy model. So what we know about play therapy is grounded in theory. Theory dictates how children access those therapeutic powers of play and how the play therapy is applied. So theory drives application is what I say. So we're always making sure that we ground our play therapy. We are developing skills in some kind of theoretical model that dictates how our clients access those therapeutic powers of play and how that model is applied. So the theory is also going to dictate how you use these skills, because the theory will you'll learn how that theory uses tracking. That's one. How reflection of feelings, limit setting, and pacing, all of those are going to be really heavily influenced by whatever your theory model is. So let's take a little deeper dive into these skills. The first one is tracking. So what is tracking? Tracking is essentially the therapist observing and noticing, following along in the play therapy session, what is going on with your client. You're verbally tracking. If you're using child-centered play therapy, that is a fundamental skill, which is tracking, and we're verbally tracking alongside of the client. If you're using a different theoretical model, that's going to look a little bit different. And we're still tracking, we're still observing what is going on with clients. What kind of behaviors are they demonstrating? What are you seeing in their, what are they doing with the toys? What is their interaction with you? What statements are they making? What behaviors are they doing while they're making the statements? All of these things you are tracking alongside. You're observing and watching and noticing and kind of making sense of what's going on in that session through that tracking process. And so how does that facilitate healing? It's the way in which you connect with your client that lets them know you're present and you are creating that safe space for them. You see them, you hear them, you're present with them in a non-judgmental way. And through that, you're kind of communicating that they're not alone in that process. And you're providing that free and protected space for them to do what they need to do to work through what they need to do, which kind of goes back, in a large part, goes back to what Steph mentioned earlier, which is trust the process. So we're trusting the process while we're also tracking alongside of them. So that's the first skill, and that's why it's important. And how you do the tracking will be based on your theory model. So the second skill is reflection of feelings. So what is reflection of feelings? It's your observation and labeling of the emotions that you see expressed in the play therapy session. So to do that, you are labeling the emotions, you're helping your client explore those emotions. And it goes really hand in hand, I think, with tracking, especially in child-centered play therapy. We track alongside. Child leads the way in child-centered play therapy. So I'll often make statements that are tracking behavior and statements as well as reflecting emotion. So let's say this is child-centered play therapy. So let's say my 7-year-old client is at the dollhouse and has a hammer and is banging on the dollhouse and has the people, and then he's banging on the dollhouse and using the hammer to kind of knock the furniture around in the dollhouse. And then maybe he picks up two people figures, and there's a good guy and a bad guy, so to speak, and the bad guy is coming into the house and kind of making the good guy figure scared. So my way of tracking plus reflecting feelings might be something like, oh, that guy's really scared. He's afraid that the robber is going to hurt him. And so that's one way of tracking, but also reflecting emotion from a child-centered play therapy standpoint. So you're picking out the emotions that are going on in the session and verbalizing those. Another way of doing that is doing exploration of emotions and allowing your client to explore their emotions, label their emotions. The purpose, how does that facilitate healing? So what we know is learning how to recognize your emotions gives you information. It allows children to understand what's going on, like what emotions they're having, so they can figure out what the emotions are trying to tell them about what's going on, maybe what they need, and then helping them either use some skills. Maybe maybe it's anxiety and they're experiencing worry because they have these worry thoughts in their head. And so you're doing some cognitive restructuring with that. If you're using more of a CBT approach, you're going to do it that way. It's a more directive approach. So learning how to, one, you're tracking alongside. How does that tracking work? What information are you paying attention to and tuning into and kind of mentally aware of? It would be the same thing as if you are doing traditional talk therapy. As a therapist, you're kind of tuning into what's going on. Your adult client is telling you something, but you're also tuning in at that deeper level to understand what's going on with your client. How are they interacting with you? What kind of statements they're making? What responses do they make to you when you make a statement? So in play therapy, you do that through the play process, the play behaviors. And then you're also reflecting feelings. But in play therapy, you can use the metaphor of the play to reflect those emotions. And that metaphor provides a little more psychological distance for your client to safely kind of explore some of those emotions that may not be so socially acceptable. This was years ago. It might be 15 years ago now. I remember I was doing a child-centered play therapy session. Child must have been like 7 or 8 or something. And it was a little boy. He was in the dollhouse. And, there's death and destruction in the dollhouse. And at one point, he stuck the little baby figure in the oven. You know, you can't do that outside of the play therapy session because it would be not socially acceptable, and grown-ups would be like aghast, right? Like, oh my gosh, he's going to be a serial murderer. Well, no, that's not really true. He's working through some of his aggressive motions. And so my tracking was what that was, oh, that baby's going in the oven. So then if I'm using this tone, it gives permission. I'm not judgmental. I'm matching his activity level and his emotional level going on there. And, you know, clearly there was something going on for him that he was working through in the moment. And doing that tracking and reflecting also gives that permission in the playroom to work through emotions and issues going on that they're struggling with. And we do it through the therapeutic powers of play based on the theoretical model. Yeah. So, hello, we have Facebook user. So, as an FYI, and honestly, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm going to go in my Facebook group later and have a little chat, see who's in there. But as an FYI, I use a third-party platform for streaming, except on Instagram. Instagram doesn't allow third-party platforms. But on my YouTube channel, my Facebook group, and in LinkedIn, StreamYard will ask for permission. And if you grant permission, all that means is I can see your name. It doesn't allow me to do anything else. But, you know, you don't have to post your name if you don't have to do that if you're not comfortable doing it. Just FYI, that's what it is. So then the third skill is limit setting. And so based on your theoretical model will also determine how you do that limit setting. The thing about limit setting is you want to make sure that it has a purpose, and how you do the limit setting still maintains that therapeutic relationship, but also provides some structure. So what's the purpose of limit setting? The purpose of limit setting is to, one, clearly communicate what are the behaviors that are expected within this therapeutic relationship. There are boundaries, right? Boundaries, if we hold healthy boundaries, that's really helpful for the relationship. And I always say that boundaries protect the relationship. Like if I have a rule for my playroom that you can't hit me and you can't shoot me with the Nerf gun. Like that's a rule. I don't want to be hit with the bullets, the Nerf gun bullets, and I don't want to be hit. Like I don't enjoy that, and that behavior would make it hard for me to have unconditional positive regard for the child, because I'll probably start dreading that child, thinking, oh, I really don't like that. So in that regard, I would set a limit to protect the relationship. And it teaches that child what are the expectations for behavior in this relationship. It also helps them take that learning and apply it to other relationships outside of the playroom. Limits also create a sense of safety and security. Like we know there are limits in life. Like if there are speed limits, right? I know if I speed and there's a police officer there, I am going to get a ticket. What's the purpose of the speed limit? The purpose of the speed limit is to keep people safe. There's a safe speed that we're supposed to keep. And there are driving rules, right? Driving laws. The purpose is to keep us safe. If I break one of these rules, also known as laws, then I will likely get a ticket. And if I break too many of them, I will start getting in more and more legal trouble. So within the relationship, it's the same thing. It harms the relationship if we don't have these healthy boundaries. And that's a learning process in any relationship. So the first part of the getting to know you process in play therapy is really helping the child to understand what are the expectations in the playroom for behavior. So you really want to make sure that you clearly communicate that to the child, and how you set those limits are going to be dependent upon your play therapy theoretical model. Like in child-centered play therapy, there's a specific process that you go through. There's a way that you explain it to the child, and how you set those limits, when they need to be set. And as play therapists, we are always kind of self-assessing whether or not we need to set a limit, what's the reason we need to set that limit, and then how are we going to set that limit. And that creates a sense of safety within the play therapy session for the child and that therapeutic relationship, and keeping the child safe. So, and then the fourth skill is pacing with the client. So pacing really, honestly, pacing is, these are all kind of go together in many ways and separated out. These are what they are individually, but we tend to use these together. So pacing really requires attunement. It requires your ability to tune in with your client, to recognize what are their cues, what's going on with them, what does, also understanding developmental stages of your client, what's typical at that. And you're tuning in to kind of match their energy level, match, are they ready to move forward? Do they need you to slow down a little bit? All of this really relies heavily on attunement, pacing with your client, and that's going to help them to feel safe and secure. Also seen, heard, and understood. And that by its very self is healing. To feel seen, heard, and understood is healing. And that's that being fully present in the moment and aware of what's going on. This is why I love attachment and neuroscience. That's one of my default theoretical models, is neuroscience and attachment, and tuning in using what Daniel Siegel calls as those resonance circuits. To do that, you really have to understand, this kind of brings us with transference and countertransference as well. When we're attuned and we're tuning into what Daniel Siegel calls our resonance circuits, where he says we connect mind to mind, even physiologically. So you can sometimes even feel the emotions in the room without anybody here saying a word. You read facial cues, you read body language, you see interactions. All of those are you tuning in with your client to recognize what's going on, and you use that information to see how fast or slow is the activity working or not working. Does your client respond better to certain types of activities than others? Do they need you to structure the session a little bit differently? All of those kinds of things are going to be based on your tuning in, also known as pacing with your client. So that's a really fundamental skill to make sure that we're doing that. And as we're doing that, we're also aware of, okay, what's coming up in me versus my client? Am I picking up on something because I'm tuned in? What is that? Is it my client or is it me? All those kinds of things that, that's why we're always tired, because we're having to do all our work all the time to figure things out. Sometimes I feel like, you know what? I just don't want to tune in anymore. I'm tuned out. It's hard. All day long, we're doing this, which is good. We want to make a difference. We want to do it. At the same time, it can be exhausting. So to me, that's one of the reasons you want to make sure you're doing your self-care as well. If you're finding like me, I'm like, I don't want to tune anymore. That's usually a clue for me that I need to go do something fun, or just have some quiet time or downtime. So those are the 4 basic skills that every play therapist needs to understand and master in order to develop competency in play therapy. So just to recap, really learning these basic skills are fundamental to play therapy, the process, and your play therapy theoretical model is going to dictate how you use these skills. So that's learning the play therapy theoretical models is a really foundational part of becoming a play therapist, and then how you apply these skills, how you use tracking, reflection of feelings, limit setting, and pacing with clients with that theoretical model as part of your development process as a play therapist. So that's it for today. If you're interested in Play Therapy Academy, I have a few more openings left. I'm not sure how long I'm going to have these openings. And then once I have 2 cohorts right now, I'm not doing any more. When they're full, and I won't be taking anybody in Play Therapy Academy until there is an opening. So Play Therapy Academy is basically it's like a membership, and part of the membership we do group consultation calls, play therapy group consultation call, video group meetings twice a month. In those meetings, 2 people are assigned to. We have a whole schedule. We always have 2 people doing case presentations. And as a group, we're kind of using those case presentations to learn how to apply, what to look for, looking for themes. How do you do that tracking? How do you conceptualize what's going on? All the core skills you need to learn. And then we're giving feedback to the people presenting, getting ideas, sharing resources. We have a great group of people in both the cohorts. So we're doing that twice a month. And then also there are some foundational courses that are part of the program. Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations course. It's a self-paced online course. You take it when it's convenient for you, for your schedule. And then the newest course that's in there, because I have a whole series, and of course, the first one is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations. The second course is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization. So what questions do you ask at that assessment in the beginning? Why do you need to ask those questions? Kind of goes through all the questions you need to ask and why you need to ask. There's a checklist in there. And then you use that information for your case conceptualization. And in the course, I walk you through step by step how to take that information and use it to get a sense of what is going on, what specifically is going on, like looking at the roots of the behavior, not just the behavior. And why is that behavior happening? Why is that problem happening? And then using that information to better understand, okay, so now what do I need to do? That's the case formulation. That's the next course, Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Treatment Planning. That's the course that's going to be coming out in July. So all of those courses are in there. We also have a group chat feature for support and some other things. If you're interested in Play Therapy Academy and you want to take your play therapy skills to the next level and really develop that confidence, stop feeling like an imposter. We have all been there. Really have a good grounding in what to do and how to do it and how to use play therapy effectively to make a difference, to make a real difference in the lives of your clients and feel like you're actually making a difference in their lives, then I'll put a link. You can pop over to my website, which is rhplaytherapytraining.com. Play Therapy Academy, if you click on the supervision page, you can read more information about that. If you already are in play therapy supervision with somebody else and you don't need that part of it, the courses are still available. You can buy those kind of a la carte if you're interested. So right now, I have a few other courses there, a couple other courses, one for using expressive arts with adolescents. And then I have the series that I'm creating now, which is, I call it the Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Excellence series. The first one is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations. The one that's also available now is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization, which includes the cultural competence piece of that, where you're figuring out the role of culture in your case conceptualization, which I think is really, really, really important. The next course that's going to be coming out is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Treatment Planning. So taking that case conceptualization, breaking it down into like what exactly is the problem, the goal, and the objectives, and what am I going to do? But that ties into your case conceptualization and your play therapy theory model. So in that course, I'm going to take you step by step each part of that process, looking at a couple different theory models as well. So if you're interested in any of those, pop on over to my website, Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training. The website is rhplaytherapytraining.com. All right, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.